I am Graeme Tracy Hall. I came to live in Australia because Mum and Dad migrated from the UK in 1966. Dad was a professional soccer player, so it was time to start a soccer competition here in Australia, both in Melbourne and Sydney, that we know as the Premier League now. So Dad decided to migrate with 3 young children to Melbourne, and I was 5 at the time, with 1 older brother, 1 younger sister. I'm a son. Michael, commonly known as Mick or Mike by his friends, and Penny, which is short for Penelope. My dad has always been very sport and fitness orientated. In his early days, he was in the RAF, I should say, and he was a professional sportsman. So he was a very good soccer player, and that's the reason we came to Australia. So I've always looked up to my dad from a sporting and mentoring point of view. Like most mums. Mums are loving human beings, and no matter what goes wrong in life, whether it's an up or a down moment in your life, it's just unconditional love, I think. I'm a brother. I've got an older brother, Gary, who's a year older than I am. We did a lot together when we were both kids. Certainly our formal years in schooling, we played soccer together. We were both interested in horse racing to a degree. We probably weren't both into cars. A lot of our friends were what we call petrol heads. My brother and I weren't petrol heads, but we grew apart a little bit because he moved interstate when he was young. I was busy with my sporting career, and but we've become closer over the more recent years, and we enjoy time together. Yeah. Yes, I also have a sister, Gaynor. Gaynor's 2 years younger than me, so I'm the meat in the sandwich in the family, and I guess my sister and I are very much alike in that, you know, we had limited formal education, but once again, like my mother, you know, she has a heart of gold. She would give you the shirt off her back, and she is one that extends that hand of friendship to anyone she comes across. I am a dad. So as a father, my wife Leanne and I had our first child when I was 30, and that was Stephanie. We were always in favour of having 2 children. It was our greatest wish to have a daughter first, and then a couple of years later followed by a son. So Stephanie was born in 1990, and then 2 years later Bradley was born. I was in the Air Force at the time. And we've moved around a lot in both our lives and our careers. So both Bradley and Stephanie have had the benefit of a formal education, but also a Christian education. But again, they've had the opportunity to see lots of our great country, being that we've moved from the south to the north, across to the east, and then through the middle of Australia, and now of course we're back down south again. I think the thing that clearly comes across to me with Stephanie is she's a private person, and she's a very sensitive soul, and you know, for a lot of us that just takes a little bit of nurturing, but certainly got a lot of love in her heart. Bradley's unique in his own way. Bradley is probably a lot more like his mother. Bradley is very adventurous, and like all young boys growing up, had his fair share of adventures and accidents that came along with it. And there's a number of things that I can recall Bradley doing as a young fella. But in saying that, he's sometimes a bit of a chip off the old block. I was a little bit of a risk taker myself, and so I see a lot of myself in him as well. Mummy's boy. I am a husband. My wife is Leanne, and Leanne and I have known each other since we were teenagers. So Leanne was still at school studying when we met. I was 19, she was 17. And I guess the interesting thing about Leanne and I is that we connected through her mother. I happened to be working with her mother, and Leanne came in to work one day with her mother while she was studying at school to do some workplace experience, and so we connected that way, and that was back in 1982, and we're still together, and you know, we've been able to not only get to know each other, but we've been able to understand how each other ticks, how each other thinks, and we find that we've both got enough patience that we make it work. Leanne's best quality is that she's so giving. She has a big heart, and there's probably nothing that she wouldn't do for somebody else. And she's not somebody who wants for herself all the time. So from that point of view, she's very giving but very selfless at the same time. Well, she was a gorgeous woman when I met her, and she still is. I think we connected. Was the thing that brought us together from the time that we first met. And I won't say we haven't had some interesting moments along the way. There's been a couple of rocky patches in the road, and being that I'm quite adventurous, we may not have always agreed on things, but the one thing we always seem to succeed at is talking about it and resolving any issues. And again, one of the reasons we've probably been together for 40 plus years, and I'm a friend. Two of my closest friends that I spend more time with would be Brian. Brian and I went to the same school. That was our secondary education at Warrigal Tech up in Western Gippsland. And Brian ended up marrying Jackie, and Jackie was also at not the same school, but at the school right beside where Warrigal Tech College was, and she was at Warrigal High School. So we sort of all knew each other at school. Having said that, when I left school, we connected a few years later when I was an apprentice jockey. Jackie happened to be driving one day where she'd left Brian at home, and I was hitchhiking one day down the road, and Jackie just happened to pick me up, and so we reconnected after 3 or 4 years after our school years. And then later in life, Leanne and I moved to Queensland for a job in aviation, where we reconnected again with Brian and Jackie, and we've become lifelong friends, and still to this day we see them 2 or 3 times a year. They still live in Queensland, and having moved back here to Melbourne, we make regular trips back to Queensland to catch up with Brian and Jackie. And probably in the more recent years, Leanne and I became born-again Christians, and I think it might have been around 1997 at our local church. We found a playgroup for our son Bradley, who was 2 at the time, and we met up with Mike and Diane, who were members of the church where we attended, became very close friends. And as the years went on, we became closer and closer. We did a lot of activities together, lots of family functions, lots of activities obviously throughout the Christian movement. Mike and I began running a new Christian course called Alpha. Alpha was a course that was run by Nicky Gumbel in the UK, and so Mike and I spent lots of time together, and Mike has eventually become the associate pastor of the church that we regularly attended, and in more recent years has now become the senior pastor of that church, and like myself is probably getting closer to retirement, so no doubt we'll be spending just as much time together when we're retired. I guess from a Christian perspective, love your neighbour. Love your neighbour like you love yourself. Be kind to yourself, but by all standards, be kind to everybody else as well. You know, what goes around comes around. But at the end of our lives, we'll all have to take account for what we've done throughout our lives on a day-to-day basis and how we've treated others. So I'd have to say that's probably the best advice I've ever been given. Exactly. I guess I have said to my children, you know, we've heard all our lives that, you know, education is one of the most important things in life, and I think when people said that, they were talking formal education, but I think, you know, education goes beyond what happens inside a classroom, and a lot of it happens at home. And I think if we spend a lot more time with our children, teaching them the principles of life and how to treat others, they grow up and have a more fulfilled life because of it. I've been fortunate enough that I've only been married once, and I've been blessed with, you know, 2 children, one of each, and the only regret, I guess, that I could say that I have is that I didn't meet Leanne earlier. Yeah, today's a beautiful day looking out the window, so it means that when it's a beautiful day outside, it could be nothing but a beautiful day in here.
Thanks, Graeme.
Cool, thank you.